Guys, welcome back to my channel. Hello. So today's video is going to be an eyeshadow palette declutter. I am going to declutter my entire makeup collection. This is probably, at least this video is not going to be cutthroat, okay? Because I recently did an eyeshadow palette declutter. I do declutter like on a frequent basis. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. I did just film this video and it was not recording the entire time. So I'm going to try to go quickly, okay? This is not going to be a 40-minute video. So forgive me for that, but like I said, I just recorded this entire thing. So I'm going to try to stay in frame the best that I can, and I am going to just jump in. Any makeup that I decide to declutter, if I can, I don't know how it works right now, but I guess I am going to try to sell it on Poshmark or gift it to a friend or family if they want it. So I do want to offer it to them first, and if they don't want it, potentially try to sell it on Poshmark. But I don't know, with everything going on, I don't know if that's happening right now. So we will see. But anyways, let me go ahead and get started with my Natasha Denona. If you've seen any video on my channel, you probably know that this is one of my favorite eyeshadow formulas. So I'm going to just tell you right now, I'm not going to declutter any of them. I have the Natasha Denona Star palette. I think this is for sure one of my favorite palettes of hers. It's very well loved. All of these palettes are, for the most part. They're very dirty. I do take pans out of the palettes and put them into Z-palettes sometimes to make different color stories. So I have my Star palette, my Natasha Denona Blue Purple palette. This one is like, can you see how filthy that is? But I do love it. And then I have my Lila palette. I feel like I don't get enough use out of this one, although, you know, the component looks like I do, but some of the shades I don't think that I do. I think what I want to do with this one is depot most of the palettes, or most of the shades, into a Z palette. It's usually like these three, I think, that really throw me off from the palette because they're just so bright. Yeah. They're beautiful. They really, like, look at those though. Anyways, I'm going to hold on to this, but I for sure want to, I don't know, I want to maybe do something with it, like put it in a Shop My Stash or something. So I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to set aside any palettes that I feel like I want to spend a little bit more time with. This is my Natasha Denona Gold palette. I enjoy this palette as well. I do think it's beautiful. I didn't think it was one that I wanted until I swatched it. Same thing with the Metropolis palette. I did not think I wanted this until I watched Kinky Sweat's video, and she will convince me to buy anything. So it's a beautiful palette. I'm really glad I did get it. I don't know if everyone's aware of this, but in Natasha Denona palettes, from my understanding, she tries to make sure that, like, you could go in a column, and that's a look. Like, each column is a full look, so you can just use those 4 shades. Or you can go like in a quad, and that will be a look. If I'm accurate in that, I could be wrong, but that's what Kinky Sweat said in her video. And sometimes I do that with Natasha palettes, and it works for me. This is the Glam palette. This is, I think, my most recent one from her. I think this is beautiful, really nice cool tone palette. I will be keeping this. I already said that, but the Bronze palette, love this also. We'll be keeping that. I think if I were to ever declutter a palette, it would be her, what is this, the Sunrise palette. But then I open it and play with some of the shades and I change my mind. I probably wouldn't ever fully declutter one of her palettes. I would probably just take my favorite shades out. Yeah, because her formula I really like. So next I have my Viseart palettes. I have the Grand Pro Volume 1. These are all matte shades. I love this palette. I will be keeping it. The matte formula in Viseart I think is beautiful. It's not too, and it's not, okay. Let me explain why. So most of the time I hear like someone will swatch a matte, and I do it as well, but it's like, oh, that's so smooth and buttery and pigmented, and like look how rich and pigmented it is. When I swatch these, there's nothing like buttery about it. However, they're pigmented, but they're not overly pigmented. That you probably can't see that, but they're thin, I would say. Definitely thin and a little bit more of a dry formula in my opinion. And they are so easy to use, and they blend out beautifully on your eye. And I think that's why, because they are a thinner formula, so you don't have to work as hard. They're not patchy. I love it. I really love it. I need to use that one more. And then I have the Grand Pro Volume 2. And I think this palette intimidates me, if I'm being honest. So how it's set up by different like finishes. So each column is a different finish. Obviously each row is a different color story, but each column is a different finish. And you have like iridescent topper shades. Some of these over here like duochromes. And I just don't get like enough use out of it, which I could say that about everything in my collection, but what I mean is I think I need to use it more and play around with it more and really, really learn the shades. So I think I'm going to set this aside also and make sure that I do put it in a Shop My Stash or something, because yeah, I just need to really get to know these formulas a little bit better. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to set it aside with the Lila palette and make note to get more use out of that also. I'm sorry, by the way, if you can hear the motorcycle in the background. So next I'll just grab my Huda Beauty Desert Dust palette. If you've seen my my Pan Those Eyeshadows video, you would know that I don't think the quality of this palette is the same as it was. However, it does have sentimental value for me because of the reason why it was gifted to me and by who. So I'm going to keep it, but it's not something that's like in rotation for me. So next I actually have two Juvia's Place palettes. Let me get the other one out. Okay, so I have the Juvia's The Warrior. These are recent purchases. And then I have the nudes. And I'm going to keep both of these because I actually have never used them on my eye. And I've swatched them so many times because they're so, so pretty. But I want to use them on my face. I've never even swatched the mattes in here. So they swatch a little patchy, but so do the Viseart, and I really like that formula on my eye. I don't think you can always tell by a swatch how an eyeshadow is going to perform, in my humble opinion. So I'm going to hold on to these and get more use out of them. This small one, the nudes, is actually in a project that I'm doing on Instagram. So I'm going to keep that. My Too Faced Born This Way, the Natural Nudes. This palette is very pretty. I'm definitely not denying that. I actually like the way it's set up. I feel like it's kind of set up in looks in a way. And I like that it goes from light to dark. I think this is a really good, like, user-friendly palette. The colors are beautiful. The mattes are beautiful and smooth. They blend really well. But I just don't love it. I'm going to declutter this one. Yeah, for sure. Going to declutter that one. Next, I have all of my Charlotte Tilbury. And This is probably my second favorite eyeshadow formula. I don't like to pick favorites, but this is probably my second favorite, and I'm not going to get rid of any of these. So I have the Charlotte Tilbury, the Icon, and the reason why I'm keeping so much is, one, I mean, that's my choice. However, I, in the past, used to declutter like pretty cutthroat, and I ended up decluttering things that, you know, a couple months down the line, I regretted it. And this was actually one of those palettes, so I went and repurchased it, and I don't want to be in that position again. So I'm a little gun shy with my eyeshadow palettes. However, I love the formula. I love all of her palettes so far that I've had. This is the Icon. I think it was like released, who knows, last year maybe? But I think it's still available on her website, last I checked. This is last year's holiday palette. This is beautiful as well. I just recently purchased this off her website. I have the Charlotte Darling look. Very nice, like peachy toned. Let me try to. Very beautiful peachy tone. Peachy warm tone shades. And then I have the Super Nudes. I like this. These are like matte or satin matte, really. And then you have the Exaggerize, which is beautiful as well. These are all of her quads. This is the Pillow Talk. Love that. Now we get into her Dazzling palette of pops. This is Dazzling Diamonds from this year holiday. These are like thinner topper shades of hers. Then you have the Luxury palette of pops Celestial. This is from last year holiday. And then this one is probably the Pillow Talk one, which came out I think a couple months ago. So these are all beautiful. Like I said, I will not be getting rid of them. Some of my favorites, and I still want to get use out of them. So next I have this Ciaté London palette. This came in my BoxyCharm. I try not to swatch the palettes in my BoxyCharm until I know, until I really know that I'm going to keep them, because I like to give them to family or friends, and I like to do that like unused. However, this one, the green shades got to me and I swatched it, and I am not going to keep it. The formula doesn't amaze me, and I have things I like better. This is my Z palette. These are all my individual shades and anything I've depotted. I go through this on a consistent basis. I used to have 3 of these filled, and I've gotten it down to 1. So all of these shades are pretty much shades that I really love and enjoy. So anyways, I really like these. I like all of them, get use out of all of them, and I declutter this palette on a routine basis. So I will be keeping that. So, okay, my next 2, I'm going to talk about these Jeffree Star palettes, and I don't talk about these on my channel much. And it's because I really don't want to, I want to maintain a good positive space. However, and I'm going to include Tati's palette in this as well, because there's some things going on there also. I'm not necessarily saying that I support either of them or what they have or have not done or have not said. I actually don't think the formula is as good as it could be. I think her mattes are very, very patchy, and I struggle with blending them out. So I think I would hesitate if she ever released another palette. And this is what I'm going to say about these 3 palettes is just based on the product, not the person. So I'm going to keep it because I do want to play around with it more, get some more use out of it, but I wouldn't be surprised if I pass this along in the future. The Cremated and Orgy palettes, the same thing. They were gifts from my husband. I never really purchased from Jeffree Star. I never had an interest to. And that's just branding of the products. I just never gravitated towards them. So I probably would not purchase this or the Orgy palette by myself. I wouldn't go out and purchase them. I don't know if they're anything grand or special. Just focusing on the products. However, as you can see, I don't really use them. And I think a lot of it is because like there's that fear of using his products on social media. Will I continue to purchase his products? No. However, my husband paid money for these and I'm going to keep them, and I am going to get some more use and see how I feel about it. And if I like the formula, if I like the product, and then go from there. So I'm going to hold on to all three of those, Tati and the Jeffree Star ones. Tati, I just don't think her formula is worth it to repurchase, and Jeffree Star, I've never gravitated towards his products anyway, so that's not a hard decision for me to not purchase them. So next I have the Viseart Theory palette. This is in Siren. I've had this for maybe a year and I really just don't use it enough, and I have no desire to use it. So I have other palettes in my collection that I just don't use enough, but I have the desire to use them. I look at them, I get excited or whatnot. This one I don't, so I'm going to pass this along. I next have the Too Faced Chocolate Bar. This is a repurchase palette of mine. So I used one up for the most part, like all the shades I liked I used up. So I got this on sale and repurchased it. I'm actually not a huge Too Faced product fan. Like again, I never gravitated towards them. I always felt like the brand was very immature, like the branding of the products. And I don't think any of their products, like I don't think any of them are I have to have or an absolute favorite of mine. So clearly I've never really enjoyed the products. However, I like this palette and I will be holding on to it. Their Chocolate Bar Gold or something like that, the Chocolate Gold palette, that's a really nice palette as well. Let's see here. This MAC palette in Nude Model, I'm going to keep. I feel like I have not gotten enough use out of it to really form an opinion, and I would like to be able to use it some more and kind of see how I feel, because I think these are the only MAC shadows I own. This Hocus Pocus palette by ColourPop, obviously I recently purchased it. I actually got lucky in the day of the original launch. My dad was, sorry, I need to like stretch out my leg. My dad was actually helping me with trying to get this palette, and I gave up and told him, like, Dad, this is not worth the headache. I don't typically purchase ColourPop just because I think a lot of their palettes are very warm toned and they just never wowed me. But this palette I love. I'm getting a lot of use out of it and I'm really enjoying the color story, especially this row right here I do a whole look out of. So yeah, I'm glad I purchased this. And I did purchase their recent like Mandalorian palette, and I was able to purchase 2 so that I can do a giveaway, because that color story I thought was a little bit different. So I just have a couple more. I have some Lorac palettes and some of my Naked, and then this It Cosmetics. This is the Naturally Pretty palette. I love this palette. You can see that I've used up these 2 shades. I have Pan and Java, and I would probably repurchase this palette. This is another formula of like satin matte shades that I think are very easy to use and they're great for everyday looks. This is an underrated palette for sure, in my opinion, and I'm going to keep it. One of my most favorite palettes is this Lorac Unzipped. I actually want to get the Lorac Unzipped Gold, but this one is more rose gold. It has some gold shades, some champagne, but it's definitely more of like a rose gold palette. I love this palette. I mean, I love the formula. It's definitely not the same formula as the Lorac Pro. I think probably it's a little bit better. But this is beautiful. I actually used this on my sister on my wedding day, because she was my maid of honor and I did her makeup, and she really liked it. This is my go-to palette. I have a backup of this palette. That's how much I like it. And this is the second one I've purchased. So keeping that, I am going to keep all of my Lorac Pro palettes. These are recent purchases of mine. I used to have all of them when they first came out, and I used up the shades that I loved and just, you know, threw it away, and that was that. Well, they recently went on sale at Ulta, and my husband and I went around our city and so that I could get all of 4 of them. So I'm going to keep these and get more use out of them. I think they're basic ones I can travel with, and I won't be, you know, horrified if they get messed up. Same thing with this Naked palette. I'm for sure going to keep this. This is just nostalgic to me, and I repurchased this when they were discontinuing it. So I'm going to keep that. And then my Naked 3, I'm on the fence about. I'm going to actually put it with the Viseart and the Natasha Denona Lila palette and get some use out of it for a couple weeks and then make my decision then. This used to be my favorite Naked palette, and yeah, I just don't know. I think I'm going to regret it if I declutter it, but I want to be sure of that, and I want to use it and make a decision if I want to keep it in my collection. The Naked Heat, I had the same thing, went back and forth on, was really afraid I'm going to regret it if I declutter it, but I think I am going to declutter this palette. I don't think I like really warm toned shadows on me. And I think I have enough, like the bronze palette will do just fine for me, that I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to declutter it and say goodbye to it. This is a hard decision because my husband bought this for me and I always feel guilty because I was so excited about this palette. So I am going to say my goodbye to her. And then, so I've only decluttered 4, so that's not a lot, but yeah, that's just what we've got. So I'm decluttering the Ciaté London, the Too Faced Born This Way, the Naked Heat, and then this Viseart palette. I don't know what my next declutter video will be, but I'm just going to go through every single category. So if you like this video, I would subscribe so that you don't miss those. Please thumbs it up. I would really appreciate that. And leave me a comment down below if you think I made any wrong choices. Is there a palette that I decluttered that you would have kept? Or is there a palette that I kept that you would have decluttered? Thank you so much, you guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.